Imagine finding a piece of writing, something from centuries back, that millions, literally millions, still reach for every day. For strength, for peace.
Yeah, we're talking about the Hanuman Chalisa today. It's one of the most widely recited prayers in Hinduism, a real devotional cornerstone.
Exactly. And that's what this deep dive is all about. We're going to unpack this amazing hymn.
Right. This isn't just history. It feels alive. Our mission here, using the source material we've got, is to really explore its origins, what it describes, and the incredible transformative power people feel it has.
And we're sticking entirely to the source material provided for this. As we get into it, you might find yourself thinking, okay, what makes a text from the 1500s still so relevant, so powerful for people all over the world?
It's a great question to hold on to. And the sources suggest the answers are woven into, well, who wrote it, the stories behind it, and its core message.
Okay, so let's start there. The author. Who actually gave us this hymn? What do the sources say?
Well, our reading really points strongly to Goswami Tulsidas, a revered poet saint from the 16th century CE.
Okay.
And what's quite interesting is he actually names himself right in the final verse. So the attribution is pretty clear.
And the language choice, that was significant, wasn't it? Not Sanskrit, like you might expect for a religious text back then.
That's right, yeah. He wrote it in Awadhi, which is like a vernacular Hindi dialect. And according to the sources, this was a really deliberate, very impactful choice. Writing it in the language people actually spoke, it made spiritual ideas way more accessible.
Right.
This decision was apparently a huge factor in popularizing the Bhakti movement. That path focused on personal devotion. And it really helped democratize spiritual knowledge.
Makes sense. And the name itself, Chalisa, that tells us something about the structure.
It does, yeah. Chalisa comes from chalis, which just means 40 in Hindi.
Okay.
It refers to the 40 main verses, the shapais. Those are the core. The intro and outro couplets, they're kind of separate.
Gotcha. So tell us a bit more about Tulsidas. Who was he really?
The sources describe him as, well, a Hindu poet saint, a reformer, a philosopher, but his defining thing, profound devotion to Lord Rama.
Right.
His most famous work, actually much bigger than the Chalisa, is the Ramcharitmanas. That's his epic retelling of the Ramayana, but in Awadhi.
Wow, that must have been revolutionary, bringing that huge story into the common language.
Absolutely. He was so respected. Some even thought he was a reincarnation of Valmiki, the original Sanskrit Ramayana author. And his influence, it's massive, still shapes Indian art, culture, society, literature today. Like, think about the Ramlila play.
Yeah, street plays.
Exactly. And music, TV shows based on it. The sources also mention he founded the Sankat Mokan Hanuman temple in Varanasi, believed it's where he actually had a vision of Hanuman.
So he wasn't just translating old texts.
No, not at all. He was bridging these ancient traditions with, everyday understanding, making deep spiritual ideas feel relevant and alive.
Making them breathe for a wider audience.
Precisely that. Relatable and meaningful.
Okay, now the sources dive into some really captivating stories about how the Chalisa actually came to be written. These legends seem pretty central to why people feel it's so powerful.
They really are. And the most widely told one, it involves the Mughal Emperor Akbar.
Oh, interesting. Tell us about that one.
So the legend, as the sources recounted, is that Akbar heard about Tulsidas, his spiritual reputation, right?
Wait.
Summoned him to court.
Okay.
And demanded he perform a miracle. But Tulsidas, being deeply humble, apparently refused, said something like, "I'm just a devotee, not a magician."
And the emperor didn't like that much, I imagine?
No. The story goes, Akbar got angry, had Tulsidas imprisoned, often said it was for 40 days, maybe in the Fatehpur Sikri fort.
Wow. And the Chalisa emerged from this imprisonment.
Exactly. While locked up, Tulsidas is said to have just poured all his focus into Lord Hanuman, praying intensely. And it was during this time in confinement that he composed the Hanuman Chalisa. 40 verses praising Hanuman's strength, his virtues, his devotion to Rama.
So the hymn itself is born from crisis and prayer. What happened next in the story?
This is where it gets remarkable. The legend says, when he finished composing it, or maybe after 40 days of chanting it nonstop, suddenly a huge trip of monkeys appeared.
Monkeys?
Yeah, monkeys. And they started causing chaos all over Akbar's court, the whole city.
Huh. You can't really ignore a sign like that, can you? Monkeys taking over the imperial court.
Definitely got the emperor's attention. So the story ends with Akbar realizing, okay, this is a divine sign linked to Tulsidas' prayers, his unfair imprisonment.
Right.
He was advised to apologize, released Tulsidas,
Hmm.
and crucially, when Tulsidas prayed again after being freed, the monkeys just vanished, miraculously left.
Wow. Yeah, you can absolutely see how that origin story would powerfully reinforce the belief that chanting the Chalisa isn't just reciting words.
Exactly. It frames it as a direct line to, well, divine help, protection, especially when you're in trouble. Gives a real narrative punch to its perceived power.
Provides a kind of historical validation for faith in its power during hard times.
It does. But the sources also mention another story, right? Maybe a bit more focused on the spiritual lesson.
Yes, tell us about that one, the humility legend.
Right. This version offers a really crucial lesson. It suggests Tulsidas first wrote versus praising Hanuman directly. Makes sense, right?
Sure.
But Hanuman himself, who is like the embodiment of humility, always seeing himself as just Rama's servant, wanting all glory to go to Rama, supposedly appeared to Tulsidas in a dream
Okay.
and destroyed those first verses, basically teaching Tulsidas, hey, the ultimate focus needs to be on the Supreme Lord.
Redirecting the praise.
Precisely. So Tulsidas, understanding this, changed his approach. He structured the Chalisa to start by praising Lord Rama, seeking his blessings first.
And then honoring Hanuman.
Exactly. This version, the sources say, doesn't just explain the hymn's structure. It really highlights Hanuman's incredible selfless devotion.
Yeah.
That whole Vaishnava idea of Dasya Bhuvasa servant master devotion. It teaches that real devotion, even to someone as powerful as Hanuman, ultimately points back to the Supreme. It's about surrendering your own ego.
That adds such a fascinating layer. It suggests immense power is actually rooted in humility and service, and that's baked right into the prayer structure.
It really does. Turns the origin story itself into a teaching on what devotion means.
Okay, so we've looked at the author, these compelling origin stories. Let's get inside the hymn now. What does the Hanuman Chalisa actually depict? What's it about?
Right. So, as we said, it's built around those 40 core verses, the Chopin. It kicks off with an invocation, a prayer for purification, asking for grace, and significantly, it starts by praising Lord Rama.
Okay. And then it dives into describing Hanuman. Is there a flow to it?
Yes, the sources describe a very deliberate progression, the first 10 Chopins or so.
Yeah.
They're all about describing Hanuman's divine form, his immense knowledge, his virtues, his incredible powers, his bravery.
So building this picture of his greatness, his capabilities.
Exactly. Then, Chopins 11 through 20, roughly, they shift focus. They highlight his selfless service, the amazing things he did for Lord Rama.
Like what?
Well, a major one is his vital role in reviving Lakshmana during the big war in the Ramayana. That moment really showcases both his power and his absolute dedication.
Okay, so attributes, then service. Where does it go from there?
Around the 21st Chopai, there's a key shift. The focus turns towards the devotee, the person chanting, towards their need for Hanuman's kripa, his divine grace.
So it moves from describing the divine to how the person praying connects with it, benefits from it.
Precisely. The sources suggest this flow actually mirrors a kind of spiritual journey. You first recognize divine qualities.
In Hanuman.
Then you appreciate the power of selfless service,
Right.
seeing his actions for Rama. And finally, you turn inward, seeking that divine favor, that grace for yourself. So it's almost like a practical guide for spiritual growth, right there in the structure.
That's really interesting. What are some of the key qualities, the virtues that the Chalisa really emphasizes about Hanuman? What do the sources pull out?
Okay, several key things. Unwavering devotion, bhakti, to Rama. That's absolutely central. It defines him.
The core trait.
Totally. Then, his boundless strength and courage. He's seen as the embodiment of fortitude, both physical and mental, which is obviously hugely inspiring if you're facing challenges.
Sure.
His profound wisdom and knowledge are also posed like an infinite ocean, guiding spiritual understanding. And his righteousness and selflessness. He's held up as the ideal of ethical conduct, serving without any thought of reward.
So strength, wisdom, ethics, and I guess protection is a big one too.
Oh, definitely. He's depicted as a powerful protector of the righteous, a shield against evil, against negative vibes. And his legendary agility and speed, they celebrate that too, symbolizing how he can overcome obstacles really quickly.
And the verses mention specific stories from the epics, don't they? Like his famous leap.
They do. Big moments like his incredible jump across the ocean to Lanka, or his encounters with demons like Sarasa, they're recounted. But the sources stress these aren't just cool stories, they're packed with deeper meaning.
Okay, like the ocean leap. What's the symbolism there?
That huge leap, it's often seen as symbolizing the soul's journey. The ocean represents like the world of illusion, the Maya, all the obstacles the soul needs to cross to reach liberation.
And Hanuman himself becomes a symbol in this reading.
Yes, absolutely. He's often interpreted as representing a disciplined, focused mind. The idea being that a mind that's concentrated, controlled, dedicated like Hanuman's can achieve amazing things, can conquer huge challenges, both internal and external.
So these virtues aren't just things to admire from afar. The devotee is meant to try and cultivate these qualities within themselves. It's more about internal transformation.
That's a really key point from the sources. Yes, it's not just about veneration, it's inspiration. The aim is for devotees to internalize these qualities, strength, devotion, discipline for their own growth.
Which leads us right to the core question. Why chant it? What is the transformative power that millions feel? What do the sources say about that?
The belief, as laid out in the sources, is pretty immense. It's seen as having multifaceted benefits, spiritual, mental, emotional, even astrological, apparently. It seems to address a whole spectrum of human needs and problems.
Okay, let's break those down. Spiritually, how does it help?
Well, chanting is seen as a way to really ignite that love for God, especially fostering a connection to Lord Rama through devotion to Hanuman.
Right, Hanuman as the conduit.
Exactly. Regular recitation is believed to help you gain wisdom, build discipline, find inner peace, and just generally accelerate your spiritual growth. It's also a powerful way, especially for kids, to connect with their cultural and spiritual roots.
And the ultimate spiritual goals people associate with it.
According to the beliefs outlined, devotion to Hanuman through the Chalisa is seen as a path towards attaining Rama, getting free from past sins or karma, breaking the cycle of rebirth, achieving salvation, basically, and experiencing supreme happiness, succeeding in righteous goals. It really captures the heart of Bhakti Yoga, doesn't it? That deep personal connection through prayer and surrender.
Beyond those, ultimate spiritual aims, a huge reason people turn to it is for protection, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's a massive part of its appeal. The belief is that chanting generates this kind of protective energy field, shields you from negative forces, bad luck, harmful influences, that sort of thing. And Hanuman is famously known as Sankat Mokan, the remover of obstacles. So reciting the Chalisa is seen as a way to, clear the path, overcome difficulties, find solutions.
And giving you courage when you're facing tough times.
Precisely. Because Hanuman is strength and courage, chanting his praise is thought to infuse the devotee with those same qualities. It helps people face challenges, fear, uncertainty with more resilience, more fearlessness.
So it's a source of comfort.
Definitely. A source of solace, peace, especially during distress, illness, or turmoil. People often chant it, hoping for divine intervention. There's that key verse the sources highlight. Sinket Kate, meet Sab Piro Gilsumayer, Hanumat Balbira.
What does that translate to?
Roughly. All troubles and pains vanish for those who remember the mighty, brave Hanuman. It really sums up that promise of protection.
Yeah, it does.
So the belief in its miraculous power to bring peace and prosperity in hard times is very strong. It acts as a kind of psychological anchor, building faith, hope, resilience, all backed by this feeling of divine support.
What about the effects on just mental and emotional well-being, day-to-day stuff?
That's another big area. The very act of rhythmic chanting is noted for having a really calming effect. It's believed to help release physical tension, significantly reduce stress, anxiety. Sources even mention it can help with symptoms of depression, fostering a deep sense of inner peace, calm, happiness.
Does it help with focus too, like mental clarity?
Yes, absolutely. The repetition involved is seen as a powerful way to cultivate concentration and mental discipline. So better focus in daily life. And interestingly, the sources explicitly link this practice to mindfulness, helping you stay present, centered. It's even believed to help with nightmares.
It's fascinating, that connection, a spiritual practice having such direct, almost psychological benefits, linking the inner spiritual world with mental and emotional health.
It really highlights a kind of holistic view within these traditions, doesn't it? Recognizing how deeply intertwined the spiritual, mental, and emotional parts of us are.
And the sources mentioned something about astrology, too. How does that fit in?
Yeah, that was interesting. There's a belief that the 40 verses actually correspond to the different planets and their energies.
Oh.
So chanting the Chalisa is thought to help balance these planetary influences in your life. Specifically, it's believed to offer protection from the challenging effects of planets considered malefic, like Saturn or Mars. Planets often linked to difficult periods or conflicts.
So it's really seen as this comprehensive toolkit, addressing challenges on multiple levels.
That seems to be the view, yeah. Spiritual, emotional, mental, maybe even physical, through stress reduction, and then this subtle energy or astrological level too.
Given all these perceived benefits, how do people actually do it? How do they integrate chanting into their lives? The sources must give some practical pointers.
They do, yeah. It's framed very much around practical application for the listener. One thing highlighted is the idea of auspicious times for chanting.
Right, like specific times a day being better.
Exactly. Two main periods are often mentioned. First, the Brahma Muhurta. That's the really early morning, like maybe 4 a.m. to 6 a.m.
Before sunrise.
Right. That time is seen as especially peaceful, serene. The belief is that cosmic energies are peaking then, which can amplify the effects of spiritual practice. So it's good for growth, purification, peace, easier access to blessings maybe. Sets a positive tone for the day.
Okay, early morning. What's the other time?
The evening around sunset, called Sandhya or Pradosh Kal. This is seen as a transition time. Yeah. And according to the belief, negative energies might be a bit more active then. So chanting the Chalisa this time is thought to create a protective shield. Calms the mind after the day, purifies your aura, gives protection through the night. It's also a good time for gratitude, seeking safety.
So there's almost a structured method here in the tradition, aligning your own focus and devotion with these specific times and their supposed energies.
Exactly. It's presented as a deliberate way to try and harness spiritual power through timing, intention, and the act of chanting itself.
Is it something devotees typically do every day?
For many, yes, it's a really regular core part of their spiritual routine.
Uh,
But even if not daily, it's particularly chanted on Tuesdays Mangalvar and Saturdays Shanivar. Those are days traditionally dedicated to Hanuman.
okay.
And you also hear it sung communally, often with music, during festivals, especially Hanuman Jayanti, his birthday celebration.
And is there a right way to chant it for maximum effect?
The sources really stress that it's not just about saying the words. The efficacy comes from profound devotion. They use the word shraddha.
Meaning?
Deep faith, sincerity, complete focus on the words and their meaning, really feeling it. There's also a tradition some follow, keeping water nearby while chanting,
Oh, yeah.
and then drinking it afterwards. The belief is the water absorbs the positive vibrations, the energy generated by the chant.
Interesting. And the repetition itself must be important, too.
Huge. Repetitive chanting is a powerful mantra practice in many traditions. It's believed to purify the mind, awaken spiritual awareness. Some feel it actually invokes Hanuman's tangible presence or energy. And that emphasis on chanting, with shraddha, with focus, really highlights its role as a tool for mindfulness, for discipline. It leads to calm, to focus. The sources point this out. The repetition transforms it from just a ritual into a practical exercise for your mind and spirit.
Are there specific numbers of repetitions that are considered significant?
Yes, those come up too. Chanting it 100 times is traditionally believed to offer freedom from any kind of crisis or major difficulty.
Wow, 100 times.
Yeah. And chanting it 108 times 108 is a sacred number, right? That's seen as especially potent for finding peace and solace when you're facing really big challenges.
Well, this deep dive has certainly revealed just how layered the Hanuman Chalisa is. Its history, its devotion, its symbolism, it's a practical guide, all wrapped up in this hymn.
It really is an enduring masterpiece, isn't it, from Goswami Tulsidas? The sources show it's packed with historical context, rich meaning, and this perceived power that touches spiritual, mental, emotional, even those subtle energy dimensions.
And it's incredible, really, how something so ancient continues to offer people very real strength, peace, guidance today. It's clearly not just some relic. It's a living tradition people actively use to navigate their lives.
Absolutely. And it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? Considering the sources portray Hanuman as the very picture of a disciplined, focused mind. What does it truly imply that devotion to him through this Chalisa is believed to lead directly to conquering obstacles and finding mental peace? Maybe thinking about devotion itself as a kind of profound mental discipline. How could that shift our perspective on both?